Good morning, family. I hope all of you rested well. I am about to do something different that I've never done before. I'm about to make a modification to one of my trucks. I have I've had this Banks intake for such a long time. I'm a big fan of Mr. Banks. I think I got this for this intake nearly a year, or possibly, yeah, a little over a year ago. They gave me such a wonderful rate on this intake, and I never put it on because my truck is running so well, and I had all of these thoughts, what if thoughts, even though they've broken down how it benefits the system. And then the other day I saw another video from Banks, how Ram, for their new 25 Dodge, for the new 2025 Ram, they actually took one of his patents that he made years ago, and they upgraded their system based off of something similar that he had already done. And so that reminded me, you got a bank system and you never use it. So here's the box. I just opened it this morning and opened all of my parts to make sure I had everything. This is the big red infamous horn that everyone talks about. They send all of these parts. I have everything with the exception they forgot to send one M8 washer. It's supposed to come with 4. I only got 3, and one copper washer for the grid heater that goes right here. So I'll have to go to the parts store and find that copper washer, because those are the only 2 things, which are simple things. I'm glad there was nothing major, but other than that, I have this intake, and that's what I'm going to upgrade. And also with this intake, what comes with it is a grid heater, a new plate. Well, the heater, the way they have this new design on the Rams coming, the old grid heater is similar to this, but it has a plug and a plastic screw, and over time, as it heats up, it has been said that they break off and they fall into the engine, causing catastrophic engine failure. So this is going to fix that, because it's going to be putting this plate down without the grid heater on that plastic piece that it screws into, and the new grid heater will be right there in that hole. So that's what I'm going to be up to today. I am not going to try to show how you do this, because this is new to me, and there's a lot of parts that I have to take off, and I have to keep a track of all of these bolts, because some stuff is not going to be used. But what I like about Banks is, not only are they standing behind their product, they sell you the product, but they give you step-by-step instructions of how to install the product. So I have that. They've sent that as well, and so I have to stay focused. But this will be the last time that I see this cover here, because this is not going to be reused. I'm going to take that off, which I'm going to take all this off. This is the current intake, and I'm going to loosen all of this. I'm going to have to loosen all these plugs and wires. So let me get started. There's a bolt down here. Then I'm going to have to take off of this throttle. It'll be easier once I get this cover out of the way. That's what I'm up to today. I will keep you guys posted, for those of you who are interested. After I get little small steps done, I'll come back on and show my progress. I'm going to have to leave and go out to the store later, but I want to get all of this torn down first, because I'm going to have to go and get me some. I've got red thread locker, but I don't want to put red thread locker all the way back. I'll put red thread locker on some bolts, but I need me some blue thread locker, and then I need to find that crushed copper white washer that goes for the heater, the new heater grid bolt, which is something simple, so I can wait to the end for that. But I'll keep you guys updated on my progress. I hope you guys are having a blessed day, but that's what I'm up to. So let me get started. I'm making pretty good progress. I just took off this bracket that goes over the EGR tube. I'm going to discard it. I don't need it. Cover, we're not going to be using those again. I took off the EGR valve bracket. I'm not going to be using those again. Making progress. It took 10 minutes. So I had to lift this cover up to access the bracket. I've already put the cover back down, put the cap back on. Now I'm going to put the bolts back around because that's it. Then I'm gonna have to do with this. Yeah, I've got more easy stuff out the way. I just took off the EGR tube and the gasket to the right side and the passenger side. We're gonna reuse those. For the video is straightforward, it's so easy to follow, and I'm just following everything along. Some of this stuff is easy to take off. I've taken this off before because I've cleaned, this is the EGR valve. I've taken that off and cleaned it before, so I really haven't gotten to my unfamiliar territory yet. My unfamiliar territory, after the throttle body, after taking the intake horn here and this throttle body, which is connected to it, after moving this stuff out of the way, this is my unfamiliar territory, which I know what they are, the fuel lines and stuff like that, but I've never had to do anything with those. So I'm going to be paying serious attention to everything it said, because I don't want any dirt. As you can see, all the dirt and debris caked up around the engine. This engine has over 552,000 miles on it, and it still runs good. But according to this new thing that Banks has created, well, it's not really new, but it's going to run even better. I'm excited to see how much miles per gallon I get. When this thing is pulling a load, it gets anywhere from 12 to 14 miles per gallon. When it is empty, it gets anywhere from 14 to 15 miles per gallon. So I mean, when it's empty and not pulling anything at all, it gets anywhere from 15 to 16 miles per gallon. So it's the only difference is that I've noticed is about 1 to 3 mile difference since I first actually bought it. Empty, it was usually around 17 or 18 to like 22, not pulling anything, just regular cruising along the interstate. But I'm just anxious to see the difference that it's gonna make. I've heard some people say they delete their whole system, they delete the whole EGR stuff, the whole setup, and they get 6 to 8 miles per gallon. The engine breathes better, but this is a stock engine, and I think it's doing pretty darn good. Doesn't get much idle time a lot, and to say that it still gets anywhere from 12 to 14 miles per gallon even under a load, that's exceptional. So I just, I don't mean to toot my own horns, but the owner they must have done a good job of taking care of. So anyway, let me continue. I started at 9 o'clock and it's already 9:26, so let me go ahead and continue. I may not be on this all day, and then again, who knows, I may stop and not finish until tomorrow, but the goal is to kind of finish majority of it today. So this is the current grid heater plug, and it plugs there, and it bolts with this little 10mm bolt there. This is where that little plastic piece on the other side, I don't know if you can see that, but this is what everyone the big talk about, causing catastrophic engine failure. Sometimes you can test it to see if your grid heater, that plastic piece on the other side, is loose by just giving that a shake. I've always tested mine ever since I heard about how this plate that runs on the bottom of there has this little grid heater plastic piece installed on the other side, and I would always shake mine. It would always be tight, so that would give me a confidence to keep driving for all these miles. But I'm so thankful now that with me making this upgrade, I'm not gonna have to worry about who told y'all to come back outside. Look at these two. I did not tell y'all to come outside causing trouble. But anyway, with this upgrade, I'm glad I'm not going to have to worry about this anymore, because once I put this new grid heater down, this thing is going to be attached to the heater bolt on the intake, which will solve this issue here. I'm still coming along strong. I've got the last easiest bolts. I went for the hardest bolt. Not really hard, but I went for the rear intake bolts first, and I'm putting them up here. Ones on the left go up there. This is the center one. I've just got that down in there so nothing couldn't fall in the hole. And this is the right one. So got that out, and I'll put this over there, and then I'm gonna move this whole thing out of here. So let me, I'm getting closer and closer. I still got a lot of stuff to take off, but getting closer and closer. All right, so I've got the cable, the sensor unplugged from back there, And I be dog, would you look at that? Look how caked up that is. So of course, I am giving this truck something it needs. Look, let me move this out the way. This was what I used to get that rear, the two rear. Well, I just use this for all of them, but that universal extension and just a 10 millimeter. I'll use an extension socket. Okay, I plugged up my inner cooler hole so nothing can get in there. And look at this bad boy. I be freaking dog. Look at all that. This was right on time. So what I'm gonna do before I do anything else, oh my goodness, look how that is just, let me sit this here for a second. Look at this. These things were blowing back into the engine. I've got a vacuum inside, so I'm picking up these little pieces, but it's gonna take me a little bit. Lord, look at that. Oh, I'm so sorry, baby. You did so good by me. To say this truck was running so good and it's clogged up like that, this this engine is probably gonna get, as long as I keep, look at all this, I'm gonna give, I got a vacuum inside. Let me get my vacuum. Give it up for Bear. I got this yesterday, this handheld one, because I didn't feel like digging my portable one with the long tube, but I'd have to do all that. I was like, this will be so much easier. So I got that from Harbor Freight. Let me get this out of the way. But what I was saying is, I think I'm going to get over 1 million miles out of this truck, probably even 2 million, because I'm definitely going to, if I've got a 500,000, definitely going to get over 1 million, but maybe more than that. Something is good. Once I'm able to get that fuel line out of the way, I'll be able to get that back debris. Anyway, I feel glad, I feel good about doing this stuff. I like to take care of myself. I remember my grandmother, before she passed, she would always say, Brenda, take care of her stuff. And I would keep stuff. She'd get me stuff and they would last forever. Until my mom decided to give it to somebody, give it to one of my younger cousins. What I'm going to do with this, before I do with this EGR valve and disconnect it from the intake. Look how small this intake is compared to the banks that I'm going to put on. That is going to be a major difference. Look at that. This is where the engine breathes, the air that the engine gets. That is much bigger. I see the difference now that I have it in my hand. You know, even the tube here. Yeah, so that's going to be a major difference. But I've got some EGR cooler. I'm going to take this MAP sensor off. I'm reusing that. And I've got some mass airflow sensor cleaner. I picked up a big bottle of that. So I'm going to clean this. And then I'm going to take this EGR cleaner off. I've got EGR cleaner as well. And I'm going to take this apart. And I'm going to let this be soaking while I'm still tearing everything else down. So when I put it back on, this will be kind of clean as well. But that's where I'm at right now, guys. Let me get to it. No, guys, look, I made a mistake. When I was trying to get these bolts off, all of these bolts, I'm not going to reuse these EGR bolts. I'm going to go buy some new bolts. I've got 3 of them loose. And then, would you look at here, when I got to this last one, it was already stripped from the last time I took it off. So I had to carefully, because it's in this tight space and I don't want to damage this sensor here, put a little small, this is a mini grip plier that came from Harbor Freight, and I was able to lock it over to this side and break it that way. So now it screws out. God is good. Okay, I'm still going strong. I'm getting tired. It was a pain getting that back plug off. So I had to force this cover off and out the way first. And then I was able to see it. So I got that out of the way. And then I got all the plugs and wires disconnected and pulled over here. I loosened the bolt for the dipstick just now. I got that pulled out of the way on a bungee cord. And I've got my power cord. I try to keep this out of the way on this side, away from everything. And so now I've already marked the fuel lines here. Those are what I'm afraid of back there, but I know that I can do all things through Christ. You see that number 6 fuel injector line is way back there, so I have to loosen that in order to loosen it, lift up this fuel rail to get this whole plate out of here. So let me keep going. Okay guys, I then went and took me a break. I had to stop. I had to pray for help, and I had to come back out. I stopped, took another break, made me a sweet potato. Stopped, took another break, made me some corn. But right here, these fuel lines, but I finally got them out, and I got this taped up because I had to loosen that PVC hole that goes in here. It's a 17mm bolt. Well, not a bolt, but it's just plastic, and it screws in there. I had to move that so I could get the number 5 line out with the wrench that I had. And I mean, the number 4 line, number 5 line was really tight. But once I got the number 5 out of the way and got to the number 6, it was easy to get to, but it was so tight. So I was able to break it loose. And the feed tubes, I'm glad none of these moved, but I still held a wrench on those, go all up to the 4th one, just to make sure. But that 6th one, I could just get a wrench on it, my 19-inch wrench, and tighten it, loosen it, and it finally broke loose just enough for me to lift it up out of the way. And so now what I've got to do is just loosen these rail lines. I even had to take the I got to tape here because I had to take the the exhaust temperature sensor that was right there. I ended up having to take that off, and that was caked up really bad, so I cleaned that all the way off. And I needed that out of the way because every time I tried to pull the wrench, it was hitting, so I had to move that out of the way. Now that that's out of the way, it's time to get to the main event and move this grid plate. So I'm about to unbolt this grid plate. Not grid plate yet. First I'm about to unbolt the fuel line. Oh wait, I forgot, I gotta remove the one that goes into the high pressure sensor. That should be easier right there. Let me remove that fuel line as well. Okay. I've got the fuel rail tied to the windshield wiper, and fuel is leaking out of the back, so I put some cloth back there, but I've got the fuel rail pressure sensor on the other end. I did not unplug it, nor did I I didn't unplug it, so that's why it's leaning back like that. So anyway, let me get this grid heater out. Got the infamous grid heater off. So my bolt, by the grace of God, this bolt here that's known for failure after some time with all the heat, it's plastic. There's a plastic piece. No, here it is right here. This is the grid heater bolt right here where it was hooked to, and that's the plastic piece right there. And over time, this is known to break and fall off in the engine. So look how caked up all of this was. Oh, I've got my vacuum here. I'm gonna try to vacuum this stuff out. Uh-oh. This little vacuum keeps up good. This is a strong little vacuum. So what I'm going to do now is remove this gasket. Won't be needing that. And I'm going to try and clean some of this soot out of here just a little bit. It's still gonna flow more smoke, but I'm gonna clean as much as I can. So I disconnected the throttle body here from the intake, and that gasket was not coming off. Move, my taste. Stop, move. That gasket was not coming off with this plastic scraper. I wasn't getting nowhere. And so I pulled out the grinder and put me a metal wire brush on there, and look at the difference. Doesn't take long at all. So that's what you may have to do for your throttle body before you attach it to the new intake. Hey guys, it's day 2 and I'm re-energized and back at it. I've already cleaned up. I had my EGR filter sitting out overnight to dry out. I took these pieces out, and I'm just going to put this back together, but I'm going to use new bolts. If anybody wants to know what size EGR bolts for the Ram 3500, the EGR valve bolts, those are the small 4 bolts. They're M 4.7 by 16, and I'm just going to put some anti-seize on those, throw those back in, attach it to my well, I'll probably wait. I haven't put my plate and stuff in yet. I went around looking for that copper crush washer. The copper washer is the best for the glow plug that goes in the intake, and that's the only thing that Banks left out of my kit. And I went around looking for it. I went to Lowe's, Home Depot, Harbor Freight, Truck Supply, Ace, every part store that you could name, and nobody has it. Napa does carry copper washers. The largest size they have is 20 M20, and it doesn't fit. They don't have the crush washer. Nissan dealership, I checked with them, they have crush washers, but it's nowhere near the size of that glow bolt. It's that size is M22 by 1.5. And so I had to wait until Banks opened. It didn't open till 11 this time, and the guy said someone's supposed to be calling me back. They're going to ship me out a washer, because the one that was supposed to come in my thing wasn't. So if you want to keep those on hand, apparently there's something scarce. But the crush washers, the copper crush washers, are really good at sealing. So I just want to stick with everything they got. Since I'm modifying my truck and using this system for the first time, I'm doing everything Banks's way. So anyway, this is where I'm at. I hope you guys are having a blessed day. I'm making progress. I've got this gasket. I sprayed it with some Super Strength Super 77 to make sure when I put the plate on, just don't move out of place. And so that's sitting there waiting. That's the new plate. The new temp sensor is all temp sensors. Temp sensor goes there. And I'm torquing down the EGR valve. 18 foot-pounds is for these bolts. Making progress, baby. Okay guys, I have got the fuel line back in, and it was easier going back on, even though I wasn't able to torque these lines. I used my torque gun in a crowfoot to torque the lines that are connected to the fuel rail. And once I felt for number 6, once I felt what 30 foot-pounds felt like, then I used the wrench to tighten up, finish tightening number 6. And then I was still a little bit unsure because as you can see, number 6 is back there. That line is dirty. I wasn't able to mark that real good, but I was able to mark right here on number 5. And you can see my line for number 5, that little black line right there on number 5. I was able to get that straightened up, and that was about that was exactly where I loosened it from. And so once I felt what number 5 was, see how the line is on number 3? See how that black magic marker that I marked? So once I was able to get number 5 lined up and I felt that, I was like, okay, that's what 30 pounds feels like. And so I knew that I had number 6 tight where it should be. And so all the rest of them, as I got them back to those lines, they felt extremely tight, like it was right at 30 again, right? So anyway, that's me. I'm gonna go ahead and get these PCV hoses hooked up. Got one down here, but that's where I'm at. I'm coming along strong. Guys, I finally got everything on. Everything's together, except I haven't not put on the Banks plate yet, and I have not put on the shield to cover the turbo and the intake, that little black shield, because I got one bolt, but I'm gonna have to go to the store and find another, but I can't remember what happened to the bolt that came from right there. And so the reason I haven't put on the shield yet is because even though I've put the silencer, the fuel rail silencer and everything back on, I still want to be able to tilt these up to see if I have any leaks, you know, and then just putting the shield on, it'll make everything in my way. So I've got everything hooked up how it's supposed to go. I'm gonna turn it on. I'm a bit nervous about this first fuel line because it just sits a little differently. I've tried to loosen it when I first put it on before everything was connected, so it sits a little off, but I've got it torqued down to 30 foot-pounds, so that's the only one I'm concerned about. But let's see what happens. Guys, I officially got it on. I did not have no leaks, but what I'm going to do before I put my Banks cover on, I'm going to take it for a drive, and then it is good to go. I will let you know how it goes. Well, family, I just took it for a drive, and it does what it says it's supposed to do. It sounds good, it runs good, I got extra power, I can hit the turbo, I can feel the extra power. Hey, and no more worrying about that grid heater, but this thing is all right with me.